Are you optimistic about the ceasefire talks than before the talks or the negotiations late last week?
As a matter of fact, I was 48 hours ago, I was much more optimistic than I am today. And the reason is that we are witnessing one more time Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, undermining the negotiations with new conditions that he keeps imposing. The problem with Netanyahu, and this is not only the opinion of Palestinians, but many, many Israeli leaders, is that he wants to have a temporary ceasefire rather than ending the war. The Palestinians want the end of the war, and many Israelis also. But the reality is that he wants to continue the war. He wants a temporary ceasefire. He wants to get back his prisoners and then continue the attacks. And that's what he declares continuously. Additionally, he just declared that he wants to keep his army in Gaza, on the borders with Egypt, as well as inside Gaza. And of course, that's something nobody can accept. The reality is that we've lost, as Palestinians, already more than 50,000 people. 33% of them are children, and 92,000 are injured, many of whom cannot get treatment because Netanyahu destroyed most medical facilities. And we cannot have this war continue. It has to stop. That is the main problem.
More talks are scheduled to happen in Cairo later this week. Can you confirm that for us? And also, should Hamas be at the table, just like last week when Hamas was briefed on it but was not present? Do you think that should change?
No, Hamas was present. I mean, that's one of the other maneuvers that Netanyahu uses by claiming that they were not there. They were there as usual, as in every other case. They don't have direct negotiations between Hamas and Israel. The Israelis sit with the mediators, and then the mediators give their information to Hamas, and then Hamas responds. That was the case in Doha, and that will be the case in Cairo. I don't think the problem here is that Hamas does not want to negotiate. The problem is that for the fourth time, Netanyahu undermines the negotiations. He already changed his position several times. Even when Mr. Biden presented his plan, it was accepted by the Palestinian side. Then Netanyahu changed things in it. And now Netanyahu is doing the same thing. So the problem here is not that Palestinian side does not want to negotiate. The problem that each time we reach an agreement about a certain point, Netanyahu comes up with new conditions. And at this very moment, Netanyahu is in contradiction with his own army, with his own security apparatus, with his own negotiating team. Why? Because everybody agrees that this man doesn't care about the life of the Israeli prisoners. He cares only about his own political career. And it is very well known that he knows that the end of this war would mean the end of his political career because of the so many failures he has committed.
What about Iran's highly anticipated attack on Israel? You were saying that you were more optimistic than, well, last week and then before the latest round of negotiations. So do you think that you can actually hold out for some optimism that Iran's attack on Israel may not happen depending on how the deal goes?
I think what happened is very interesting. Iran and Hezbollah in Lebanon were both about to respond to Israeli attacks on them. As you know, Israel committed an assassination act inside Tehran, insulting Iran by killing the main Palestinian negotiator, Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas. And they killed another main leader in Hezbollah, Fuad Shukr, in Lebanon. And these two sides were going to respond, and then they suspended their response, in my opinion, to give chance for negotiations to succeed. In other words, they were saying if Israel accepts a real ceasefire and an end of this war, they will not respond. And that is good, that is positive, because it means we have an opportunity here not only to end this war, but to end any other further escalation.
How do you react to the U.S. weapons sales to Israel, that the $20 billion weapons deal that we learned about just a few days ago?
I think it's an irresponsible act from the side of the United States. So far, the United States gave Israel or sold Israel weapons worth of $45 billion. And now the International Court of Justice is discussing whether Israel has committed an act of genocide in Gaza. And most probably they will conclude that, given the amount of civilian injuries and deaths that were caused by Israeli bombardment. In that case, the United States will find itself in a very difficult position because it will be accused also of participating in genocide by supporting Israel with all these military equipment. There is a very interesting here ratio that one should mention. United States gave Israel $45 billion of weapons and bombs, and there are 50,000 Palestinians killed. It's like United States is giving Israel $1 million for each Palestinian killed. That is unacceptable. What we need is not more weapons in this region. What we need is peace. What we want is the end of the cause of all problems, which is the Israeli military occupation of Palestinian land. What we need is allowing Palestinians to be free and independent so that we don't have any more conflicts or any more wars. Sustaining the situation by just supplying weapons and bombs is unacceptable. The total amount of bombs that were thrown on Gaza by Israel up to now is more than 80,000 tons of explosives. That is 4 times the amount of explosive power of the nuclear bombs that were used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That is like 36 kilograms of explosives for each man, woman, and child in Gaza. And today, 1.6 million Palestinians in Gaza are stuck in an area that is only 15 square miles. That is horrible. They are suffering from diseases. They lack water. They lack food. In my opinion, Israel is not only bombarding them, but also using biological warfare. We already have 1.5 million people sick from different diseases, including the beginning of a spread of poliomyelitis, which we have eradicated before.